All right, folks, looks like we're going to go ahead and get this meeting started. So I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. And if you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance before we get started. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So we, looking around the room here, we have, I believe, 10 counselors in attendance. Claire, I believe that Counselor Carlino and Counselor Jordan are both out this evening. Can you confirm that? Oh, she is. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back to people here. There we go. I'm sorry, Counselor Jordan. I see you there. Great. And Stacie, Miss Anderson's not here. Do we know if she's coming? Okay. Okay. Miss Trimble, Miss Anderson, and Mr. Carlino are not present at the beginning of the meeting.
Noted, thank you.
Welcome. That. Okay, great. We'll go ahead and get started then on item number 3, which is public comment on non-agenda items. We ask that folks come on up to the microphone and identify yourself by saying your name and spell your last name, please. And then also, before we get started, I just wanted to remind folks that it's an opportunity for us to hear from the public. I'll do my best to hold up a 10 seconds when left and stop when you've gotten to 3 minutes, and appreciate you keeping to your allotted time. And just want to remind folks that we keep our tone civil and respectful in the room, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Hi, Matt Slarson, Ward 3.
Oh, sorry. Let me just. Oh, you did. Pardon. I remembered this time. I know. Thank you for having my back. Sorry, Mr. Larson.
I just wanted to speak briefly just about like the overall like rules of and demeanor of the engagement here in this room. I find that often City Council interrupts the speaker during public comment, and I think it's inappropriate. I think that this happened last week during the BCAL meeting, and it happened last week during some people speaking to their own personal like lived experience as unhoused people in the community. There was discussion of how loud the person was speaking. I don't know who's supposed to make the final call on like how loud somebody's supposed to speak, especially when there's other people who are older in the community speaking at that same meeting last week, asking for more sound reinforcement because they're unable to hear. So it just seems that there's like a kind of a lacking engagement from the community participation aspect of this. And it seems to be like a reoccurring pattern with myself where I'm interrupted when I'm speaking, and points of order are made that are just totally out of spite mostly, I believe, and used to derail my thought process or ability to speak. So I would just ask that the City Council try and limit that as much as possible in order that we, engage in as much free speech and free dialogue as possible. I know people thought that there was like some sort of personal attack that was going to transpire, but I mainly just wish to speak about zoning when I was talking at BCAL meeting last week, and I was talking about a tip of the iceberg type of scenario that involved one of the sitting councilors, and it was simply just facts that I was stating. It wasn't, nothing about it was a personal attack, and yet it was met with people on this council saying that it was borderline harassment. And it's just ridiculous when that type of conduct is happening. It's not productive. It's not like, it's not positive. So I'd ask that we just try and limit that amount of interjection when we're supposed to be just taking public comment. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Larson. Anybody else want to come up? Come on up.
Hello, my name is Haven Seagraves. I don't know what ward I'm in, but I live here. That's my dog Ansel. He's fine. I would just like to say it is kind of a strange time that we live in, all of us. There's a lot of partisan things going on. I would just like to think that one thing that we can all agree upon is that our unfortunately unhoused community gets the shelter and sufficient resources that any dignified human could provide for them. I know it's a difficult kind of roadmap to go down. There's a lot of things involved, but I think at the end of the day, you as all elected officials have to push forward to make sure that all of our citizenship gets provided for with the most basic needs. And I know you're doing work on that, but I guess the reason for my public comment is just to kind of give a nudge, like keep on doing it, keep on working on that, you know? Because it's like last week in my neighborhood there was a fire about, you know, with some guy who was homeless and had a propane tank. And it ended up charring a 40-year-old tree. So the tree's gone, and it's like, and then, you know, so there are real consequences that we see around. And maybe it needs to be more people chipping in for money to, build a space for these people, more beds. Like, I'm originally from Portland, and so I've seen the Portland decline for like two decades. And the worst route you could go down is legalizing everything, and like there has to be limits. Like there has to be compassionate limits to deal with these kind of problems that we're facing. And I would say like 30% of people experiencing homelessness are veterans, you know, who've served for this country. And I think we owe it to ourselves as moral individuals who want to do the right thing for others, and as neighbors to kind of let's push this ball forward. Like, let's get something done. Like, get something done, and that would be rad. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Graves. Anybody else wish to make public comment on items not on the agenda this evening? Mr. Moore.
Bob Moore, M-O-O-R-E. Y'all see this brochure? I guess y'all seen that. I don't even know who published this. They want you to spend several millions and millions and millions and more dollars in this development, and I don't even know who it is. Who prepared this? Do you know?
No, Mr. Moore, I don't believe that is. If you wish to hand that to the officer can make sure that we get that at council if you wish to submit that to us.
You've seen it. And here, apparently these dumb people can't see the beauty like buying a mountain or giving Stockman Bank $5 million and then have a little lady on the TV station that I didn't see but my wife did complaining about the taxes. And you and Mr. Nugent were going to save the world on property taxes. I'd like to know how you're going to do it. This is an article put together on a plain white sheet of paper as the reasons not to do it. Not to do it. We don't need to spend any more money. People are going broke. My taxes, the rate about double. I don't have it with me. About double it. Did y'all like how your property taxes went up? Did your property taxes go up like mine did? I would assume they did. Did you like paying that higher amount? I'm gonna have to pay, I forgot now, I think it's a couple $1,000s more on it. I've just got a little small, medium priced house. But you want to keep spending, and doing nothing but spending. You don't look at being a management organization of looking to see how you can save some money. Look at that as your money that you want to save some money on your property taxes and not have to pay and fund every article, everything you see in the paper. Oh, that would be a great idea. So taxpayers, here I come. Taxpayers, here I come. Y'all could care less what you're doing to the taxpayers in this town. Every one of you should try to save money as the objective and not spend money. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Moore. Are there others that wish to speak on public comments on items not on the agenda this evening? Anybody else in the room? Okay, not seeing any. Are there any online that wish to make public comment on items not on the agenda this evening? Not seeing any hands raised, no? All right. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll go ahead and move on to agenda item number 4, which is announcing committee meetings, committee membership appointments, and changes to committee agendas. Ms. Trimble, would you go ahead and read the committee schedule for February 14th, 2024?
I would be happy to.
And Ms. Trimble, I'm sorry to interrupt. Before you do, and you may have noted this already, but Councilor Carlino has joined. I just want to make sure for the record that he's noted in attendance.
I will mark him before we vote on anything.
Thank you.
February 14th, Valentine's Day. We have a full schedule. We're going from 9 to 5. We're starting off the day at 9 a.m. with Public Works and Mobility. They have one item to award the construction contract to Three Rivers Landworks for West Pine Water Main Replacement Project. Next up is Land Use and Planning at 9:25. They have a few items. First is our Missoula Growth Policy and Code Reform. I believe that's an informational update. There's also a proposal to change Title 20 to add food and beverage retail sales as a permitted use in residential districts as part of the Title 20 Code Reform package. At 11:05, we'll continue with Public Safety, Health, and Operations. And there is an item to update Title 5 for short-term rental registration requirements. There will be a 1-hour lunch break, and then we'll come back at 1:10 with the Housing, Redevelopment, and Community Programs Committee. They have 3 items on their agenda. The first is democratizing the MRA expenditures. The second is a Build for Zero capacity building grant agreement. And the final item is a mid-fiscal year 2024 houseless programs update.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Trimble. Yes. Councilor Vasecka.
I just wanted to be known that I will be probably missing all of Wednesday because I am on the Governor's Property Tax Task Force, and that's happening on Valentine's Day. So I will probably be missing the meetings, if not any, not all. But I just wanted to let everybody know that.
Well, I hope you can find yourself some chocolates or something over there to make up for having to spend your whole day on property taxes on Valentine's Day. But thank you for your service on that task force. Appreciate that you're there. Any other comments regarding the committee schedule? No? Okay, Ms. Trimble, thank you very much. All right. Great, that moves us to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda were approved in City Council committees to be placed on the consent agenda to save time at council meetings by voting on them as a package. The city clerk will read the list aloud so citizens watching on MCAT will know what is on the consent agenda. We'll invite community comment on these items before we vote. So, Ms. Trimble, take it away.
Great. And on my screen, you'll see that we always begin with accounts payable. We have a recommended motion to approve accounts payable claims for checks dated February 13th, 2024 in the amount of $706,792.08. We have a motion setting a public hearing on February 26th, 2024 to adopt an ordinance amending Title V of the Missoula Municipal Code, Section 5.08.130, to change the process for approving or denying business licenses based on an applicant's prior criminal history and require a hearing to determine whether approval of an application would be in the public interest. And since this is an ordinance change, the reading this evening constitutes the first reading. Continuing on, we have a motion approving the resolution relating to the financing of certain energy improvements to city facilities, establishing compliance with reimbursement bond regulations under the Internal Revenue Code. We also have a motion setting a public hearing on March 4th, 2024, and final consideration on March 11th, 2024, for the resolution for the second quarter fiscal year 2024 amendments to the annual appropriations. We have a motion awarding the bid for the East Front, Jackson, and Monroe Water Main Replacement Project to JTL Group, Inc., DBA as Knife River, at a cost not to exceed $1,381,158 for their base bid, and authorize the return of bid bonds. We have a motion appointing Sheri Henckel to her from her current role as an alternate member to a voting member with lived experience to serve on the Affordable Housing Resident Oversight Committee. We have a motion approving the purchase of 7 2025 Ford Explorer utility interceptors for fiscal year 24, and another 7 2025 Ford Explorer utility interceptors for fiscal year 2025 from Duval Ford. The purchase price for 11 of the 14 is $66,922.52 each, and the purchase price of the remaining 3 is $67,532.52, for a total of $938,745.28 for all 14 vehicles. This is a cooperative purchase with the state of Montana. And our last item on the consent agenda is a motion approving and authorizing the mayor to sign a 5-year collective bargaining agreement with the Teamsters Local 2 Parks and Recreation Union.
All right, thank you, Ms. Trimble. I appreciate that. Is there any public comment from folks in the room on items on the consent agenda tonight? Please come on up.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Hunt, and I'm commenting on item 5.2 of the consent agenda. I live in Ward 1. I testified last week in front of committee on this, and ran out of time, so I'm going to pick up somewhat where I left off, because I believe that the council should be submitting this as a question to the state attorney general to get an opinion, and not rushing into a vote on this on the 26th of February, especially considering the small number of people who end up going to an appeals panel. The primary problem, of course, with this ordinance is it takes just left my mind. It's taking the constitutional provision, Article 2, Section 3, with regard to restoration of rights, and is taking what our Supreme Court has not only said, as the Constitution does, is an inalienable right, but has gone so far as to say it's a fundamental right. And what this council now proposes to do is to take what's a fundamental right in our Constitution and reduce it to merely being one of several criteria that you can consider in deciding whether to give a business license. That's just fundamentally insane, to take a fundamental and inalienable right and make it merely part of a list of factors you could consider in determining whether to issue a business license. You are absolutely inviting and almost begging for litigation. This concerns me because about 2 weeks ago, our Supreme Court made a big change in state law about payment of attorney's fees in matters such as this. And it was a case that was a lot more questionable than what I claim is an obvious problem here. And in that case, they granted attorney's fees to the challengers of this law, even though they hadn't pled attorney's fees below. And the rule had been that in these kinds of cases, they weren't going to award attorney's fees. Well, they changed their mind, and they even chipped a little bit into the presumption of constitutionality doctrine by saying that if this looks like to us like it's a pretty obvious answer, the governments are going to pay. And so I just bring that to your attention because I think in our fiscally challenged times, it's unwise to invite litigation when it costs you nothing to ask for an attorney general's opinion. There's a lot of vagueness in this proposal. Here's some examples. Who's going to make a determination whether something doesn't meet your criteria and has to be forwarded to the appeals committee, and the word appeal remains in this proposal? That alone is going to, I think, cause a constitutional problem. But who's going to make the decision? A clerk, a non-lawyer, probably going to make that initial determination. Who is going to decide whether or not how you're going to treat an out-of-state conviction? If I just finish that part, because there's like 4 more vaguenesses, I guess I'll probably be waiting until the 26th to point them out to you, but I'm hoping that reason will be followed and the Attorney General's opinion will be sought. The first problem here is, how are you going to treat out-of-state convictions? Is a clerk or the appeals committee going to decide, are you going to do element matching between our statute and another state statute? Where do you get authority to do that? What if someone was pardoned in another state? What if someone served their entire sentence and satisfied all obligations in another state for a conviction? You don't have any criteria for making these decisions. It's going to result in arbitrary and capricious actions, and those actions are not authorized because the constitutional provision involved has been declared inalienable and fundamental, and that is a right to make a living, is what the court said, is contained in the separate provision of the Constitution that protects the inalienable right to acquire and possess and use property.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments in the room this evening on consent agenda items? Okay, not seeing any. How about online? Any public comment on the consent agenda tonight? Not seeing any. Okay. Looking around the room, looks like we'll go ahead and take a vote then on the consent agenda. And Ms. Trimble will go ahead and do a roll call vote this evening.
All right, voting on the consent agenda, beginning with Becerra.
Yes.
Carlino?
Yes.
Farmer?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Jordan? Oh, she's absent. Oh, she was here. Did she pop off?
Looks like she's, yep, she's still here, unmuted. Councilor Jordan, can you hear us? She may have had to step away.
We'll come back. Nugent?
Yes.
Savage?
Yes.
Sherrill?
Yes.
Vasecka?
Yes.
Melson?
Yes.
Campbell?
Yes.
And Jordan? Yes.
Should give the visual thumbs up as a yes. Got it.
And that's 11 in favor and none opposed.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Trimble. That is item 5. And moving on then, we do not have any comments from city staff, city agencies, community forum, or neighborhood councils this evening. We have no special presentations and proclamations. No final considerations or public hearings either. And that actually brings us to basically through our committee reports. We have no special committee reports this evening for any of our city council meetings. So that brings us to new business, of which we have none. And so that's it. Brings us to communications from the mayor. I will say that I am in a race to have maybe the fastest city council meeting in the city of Missoula. Teasing. But we do have a very light agenda this evening, so we'll be able to move pretty quickly here. I just wanted to mention I had the opportunity to drop the puck for the Fire and Ice event, and it was really awesome. It was the 12th annual event for supporting the wildland firefighters and our local fire union. We had counselors there that were volunteering, and it was a really nice community event. They raised $19,000, or we should say we as a community raised $19,000 to help support wildland firefighting and also supporting Local 271's benevolent foundation. So that was really awesome. It was great to see everybody there, and it was a real honor to scooch out there in my figure skates and drop the puck. So I'll go ahead and leave it there and offer the opportunity for our counselors online first, if that's all right. Knowing you two are home for a reason, give you the chance to share anything if you wish to this evening. All right, shaking heads no. Okay, sounds good. So then, Counselor Vasecka?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I wasn't able to go to Fire and Ice because I was in Hot Springs, Montana, and then I got randomly invited to be a part of the Chinese New Year parade. I was a part of a fish, and so I did get accidentally interviewed by the newspaper there, so I tried to be incognito, but I just wanted to say happy Chinese New Year to everybody, and that was a wonderful time there. And I also wanted to say, but Mr. Hunt left, but I have my pocket constitution, and that's why I have my pocket constitution, is for when Mr. Hunt quotes it, so I can see exactly what he's talking about. And I did want to mention Rule 4. I remember when the late Mayor Engen was asking me when I was very concerned about Rule 4 and the discussing of public comment, and he said, "Are you sure you want to continue beating this dead horse?" And I said, "Yes, I would love to continue beating this dead horse." And he let me, so I really appreciate that. I also wanted to let folks know that we do not have council next week because it is President's Day, and I hope everybody has a great long weekend. It's my niece's birthday, so happy birthday, Victoria.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Councilor Campbell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll pass tonight.
Okay, great.
I just think that if the mayor is going to skate out on ice skates, that she should give council on notice. Councilwoman Anderson and I were busy behind the beer sales table, and I somehow missed documenting this event. But it sounds like you did really well. No, it was a great event, and I think it was thanks to everybody who put their effort into it.
I missed it this weekend. I was gone, but we were kind of tracking it from afar. So I'm excited it happened, and I'm excited that they did so well. Another thing that I am happy about is the changes that we are going to be bringing in the lineup of our agenda, starting, I think the first week of March. I think a great example of why it's going to be better is that the man that came in with a super cute dog, I think his name was Seagrave, I wanted to respond with something to what he said, and now he is gone, which is understandable, but it's going to be a good opportunity to respond, and for Mr. Hunt as well as Ms. Vasecka pointed out.
Thanks, Councilor Sherrill. Appreciate that. Ms. Jones?
I did not work at the Fire and Ice hockey game, but I got to go check it out and see all the counselors working there. But it's super fun. I hope next year it gets even bigger. They have kind of a raffle. They have all these different things to make money, and the thing that I did, you get to choose a card, and then you get to choose a bottle of liquor. And so I got to get the Jameson's bottle of Irish whiskey, and that's going to be my husband's Valentine's Day present, but he doesn't know it yet. So I think they should always hold it right before Valentine's Day. It's a perfect matchup.
Yeah, I'll just say I really enjoyed seeing Mayor Davis out on skates. It kind of had a little bit of the halftime show vibes with the roller skates. I mean, you gave Usher a run for his money.
Yeah.
And I just want to say thanks to the fire department for putting on such a great event. I think we got home with a bottle of R&R, so you made out a little bit better than we did. So congratulations to those guys for raising so much money.
Awesome.
I will pass. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you. Yeah, I would love to have seen the ice skates myself, since I like to shuffle. I don't skate, I shuffle. But I did produce one amazing hockey skater. I will say that. I just wanted to take a minute to address some public comments about my short-term rental and the application that I've been trying to get through since August of 2022. I just have something that I would like to read because I would like to correct the record on a couple counts. Just to be clear, I do not have an expired short-term rental license, even though that is what the city website says. I applied in August 2022 for a license, and that application is still pending. I've never been issued a license and therefore cannot have an expired one. Again, my application is pending, and I do not know why it shows as expired in Acela on the city website. That's a question for city staff. The bottom line is that I have been doing everything within my power as a private citizen to work through the process to get this rental registered and come into compliance. City staff have been working tirelessly as well to identify roadblocks in place for me and for other private citizens to get their short-term rentals registered. I'm not the only one stuck in this process. It's my understanding from my discussions with staff that my application, as well as those of many other applicants, are caught waiting for a health department review. It's also my understanding from my many conversations over the past few months that due to lingering impacts of the pandemic, such as staff turnover and staff capacity, the health department has not been able to turn the applications around quickly. So just to clarify, a little timeline here. In August of 2022, I hand-delivered 2 applications, one to the city and one to the health department. In January of 2023, after hearing nothing from the city or the health department since I submitted applications, I reached out to understand what was going on. Then the city gave me a login to Acela, which is their tracking software, and then I was able to see that my application, at least with the city, was pending. So then that was in January. I still didn't hear anything. In September of 2023, more than a year after I submitted my application, I received an email from the city that I could schedule a building and fire inspection. I scheduled that inspection in October. We passed it in November, had the inspection in November and passed it in November. And then in December, I received an email, and I got confirmation from the inspector about that inspection. In December, I received an email from the health department that I was allowed to turn in my application to the health department. I emailed them to say that I'd already turned it in more than a year prior. And in February of 2024, I received an email from the health department that said they had lost our application and that we needed to reapply. That meant we're redrawing site plans. It meant redrawing floor plans. In February 2024, we resubmitted our application, and I'm assured that within 45 days we will get a health department review. I wanted to put this all on the record because I'm not the only one stuck in this process. And it is precisely why Ms. Anderson, Mr. Nugent, and I are bringing forward a referral on Wednesday that we will hear in committee to streamline this process. We worked with Mr. Sudbury and Ms. Pehan on this referral so that short-term rentals have to have a listing number to be listed on Airbnb and VRBO. The goal of this referral was to make it possible for owners to come into compliance listing their rental with the city in a process that the city can control. It allows us as a body to do what the consultants we've hired to do have told us to do, which was number 1, get eligible short-term rentals registered. Number 2, monitor the number of short-term rentals that we have in Missoula so that we can continue to regulate these rentals and create policy around them if necessary. And the third thing they told us to do was to raise the fee for short-term rental registration, which this body has already done. In addition to the new referrals, staff are also working to administratively decouple the city process from that of the health department. Owners are still required by state law to have a health department inspection, but that process will no longer be coupled with the city, with registering through the city. That's my understanding. And just as owners are also required to register with the Department of Revenue and collect lodging and sales taxes on their short-term rentals and remit those to the state, you will still be required to have a health department inspection, but that will not be tied to a city registration process. So the hope with this referral is that people like me can get registered with the city, get their listing number, have it listed, and be done with the process. No one should have to go through more than, 18-month process to get a short-term rental registered in this community. And so I hope that by telling this story that people can understand that this has been extremely cumbersome, and that my great hope is that we can streamline the process and get short-term rentals listed so that we can continue to do our jobs as a council. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councilor Savage. Appreciate that. All right, that wraps up councilor comments. And there is on number 14, administratively approved agreement report in the council packet if anybody is interested in seeing that. And with that, that adjourns the city council meeting of February 12th at 6:36 p.m.